Okay everybody, in this video we are going to configure our first server using Microsoft Windows Server 2019, and we're doing this as a virtual machine within the Oracle VirtualBox environment. Now, as you can see up here on the screen, I already have a Microsoft Windows Server. We are going to use this as our base machine, and the very first thing that we want to do is we are going to clone this machine. All right. So we will clone this, and we are going to call it Server 01. And we're simply going to take our standard, we'll do a next. We'll do a full clone, and we'll allow this to clone itself. And we'll give this a moment, and we will come back to it. All right. Next thing we'll do is we are going to load Microsoft Windows onto this new server. We'll go to our server, we will click on the server itself, and then click Start. Now the server already has an ISO file in the DVD drive, so it should start to load that up. Let's bring that, bring that window over here. And you can see that loading up. We'll take the defaults. We'll be using US English, time, as well as the US keyboard. And we'll say next here. We'll do an install now. And again, just to repeat, I already have an ISO file in the DVD drive. So that's what it's loading from. When it comes to the product key, for now, we will not enter a product key, and we'll simply say I don't have a product key. Next, it's asking what version of Microsoft Server do you want to install. The first question is, do we want to install Standard or do we want to install Data Center? Now, we will be installing Standard. However, Data Center allows you to run a more powerful machine. It allows you to have more VMs running within it, but we're going to go with Standard. And having selected that, the next thing that we want is, do we want just Standard or do we want the desktop experience? Now, the desktop experience gives you a server that has the full Windows GUI that all of us are used to working. The other gives us a core server, or a server core, that is stripped down. This is a server that has a command prompt when it comes up. It does not have a GUI interface. So controlling this server, you're either going to control it remotely from another server with a GUI interface, or you're going to use commands on the command prompt in order to configure it. But that's a separate topic, and we'll address that later on. So we are going to select the desktop experience, and then we're going to say next. Now, if you recall, this thing has a 50 gig drive, a single drive that we'll be installing on. This window is asking for us to accept the terms of the license, which we are going to do. We'll say I accept, and then we'll say next. Here we're going to say we're going to do a custom install Windows only, okay? We're not doing an upgrade. You would do an upgrade if you were installing on an existing machine, let's say a server 2012, and you wanted to upgrade it to 2019. But we're doing a fresh install, so we're going to select the second option here. And now it's asking what drive partition do you wish to install the operating system on. And again, this virtual machine has a 50 gig drive, and that's the partition we are going to install it on. So I'm going to click there, and we will say next. Give it a moment. All right, so now we're going through the installation process. This should go through pretty quick. And you can see it just counting through. We're about halfway. Okay. And we've got a couple of additional steps after we get through this phase of the installation. They'll go relatively quick. Okay, and we're going to now restart. So we'll click on the restart. It will restart automatically, but I'll just hit the button and we'll restart it. Now don't touch anything at this point. We don't want to go through and restart the installation process again with the DVD drive. And now you see it getting ready. It will be coming up and it will be asking us to configure a password. All right. And we're going to be setting the standard class password for these systems. All right. And then we'll say finish. And here we go. So because I'm in the VirtualBox environment, I'm not going to hit Alt-Control-Delete, but I'm going to hit the right-hand control and then delete, okay? And that will generate an Alt-Control-Delete. And I'll put in my standard password, and we'll log in as the administrator. And once the server comes up, it's going to start our server manager, as you can see right here, and I'll say yes, make this thing discoverable. And we'll shut this message down. We'll go to our local server over here on the left-hand side, and you can see that we have our local server there. So now I need to configure a couple of things. The very first thing that I want to do is I want to change the server's name. And we're going to change this to server 01. I'm not going to join a domain or anything just like that. We'll work on that during another lesson. So we'll leave the work group alone. The server name will change once we reboot. You'll notice that our product ID has not been activated yet. I'm going to turn off the enhanced security configuration for the moment. Just make things a little easier to get us set up first, and then we'll go back and we'll turn on the security features within our server. We're also going to turn on remote desktop. And we'll say OK to that, and we'll say OK. Later on, we'll be setting up with a static IP address. I need to really talk to you about that before we really get into to doing that. And the rest of this looks OK. I'm going to minimize my server manager, and we're going to open up Windows Explorer. Personally, I prefer not using Windows Explorer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in, and I want to I prefer working with Firefox. Okay. And I do not wish to use the Microsoft browser at all. So we'll get away from that. Want to go down to download Firefox, and we'll be loading that up. Okay, and then we'll say run. Okay, we're almost there. And I'm going to close this out. I'm going to get this off of my system tray here. Yeah, unpin it. Okay, good. And okay, so at this point we have our server is up and running. The operating system is installed. It is talking to the internet. We are able to effectively install Firefox, minimize that, and I now have a working Microsoft Server 2019. From here, what I'll be doing is I'll be showing you how to install Active Directory on this server. But again, we're going to clone server 01 into another server. I like to clone servers so that if I need to go back to a prior step in our overall process, I can do that by simply selecting one of the prior clones. And we'll be doing that shortly. But for right now, we've accomplished what I'm looking for, and that's to have a Microsoft Server 2019 virtual machine running. So thank you again, and we'll talk soon.